Yesterday, we have started to read chapter 4, involving right speech, right action, and right livelihood. We have read the introductions, a few paragraphs, and we left with the last two paragraphs here, which is these two. So I will start to read first. When briefly defined, the factors of moral training are usually worded negatively in terms of abstinence. But there is more to sila than refraining from what is wrong. Each principle embedded in the precepts, as we will see, actually has two aspects, both essential to the training as a whole. One is abstinence from the unwholesome, the other commitment to the wholesome. The former is called avoidance, varita, and the latter performance, charita. At the outset of training, the Buddha stresses the aspect of avoidance. He does so not because abstinence from the unwholesome is sufficient in itself, but to establish the steps of practice in proper sequence. The steps are set up in their natural order, more logical than temporal, in the famous dictum of the Dhammapada. To abstain from all evil, to cultivate the good, and to purify one's mind. This is the teaching of the Buddhas. From Dhammapada verse 183, the other two steps, cultivating the good and purifying the mind, also receive their due. But to ensure their success, a resolve to avoid the unwholesome is a necessity. Without such a resolve, the attempt to develop wholesome qualities is bound to issue in a warped and stunted pattern of growth. Okay, so firstly, let's define any difficult words. Probably here, temporal. Okay, maybe it's the first definition here. Relating to worldly as opposed to spiritual affairs or secular. So these steps is more logical rather than spiritual. And let's define dictum here. A formal pronouncement from an authoritative source. I think it's second definition, relating to time, we can say. Yeah. Relating to time. So it's more logical rather than relating to time. This part.
So just very quickly, yeah, I think when it says the steps are set out in the natural order, it means like the logical order rather than the temporal order. So logical order in the sense that, yeah, it's a logical sequence rather than like it necessarily is a temporal sequence, like, oh, you must do this first, and then after that you do this, and then you do that. I think that's the meaning of it. Logical order means there's a logical sequence to it, but doesn't necessarily mean you have to abstain all evil first, then only you cultivate the good. But it's more like a logical presentation of the components. Does that make sense?
Thanks for pointing that out. We can. Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yes. So thanks, we can. Okay, the last sentence, the last word, warp. Bent or twisted out of shape, typically as a result of the effects of heat or damp. Stunted. I think it has similar meaning. Having been prevented from growing or developing properly. Yeah. So this one is, I think most of us should know this very famous dictum from the Dhammapada. To abstain from all evil, to cultivate the good, and to purify one's mind. This is the teaching of the Buddhas. So, any questions or comments for this paragraph? So if not, then we can move on to read the next one. Would you like to read, Waken?
Awesome. Okay, just that one paragraph, right?
Yeah, the short one.
Okay. The training in moral discipline governs the two principal channels of outer action, speech and body, as well as another area of vital concern, one's way of earning a living. Thus, the training contains three factors: right speech, right action, and right livelihood. These we will now examine individually, following the order in which they are set forth in the usual exposition of the path.
Okay, thanks, Waken. Yeah. So this one, I think, quite straightforward. It displays the three factors of moral discipline. Firstly, speech and body, and also another important area, one's way of earning a living. We will explore this much later, much later in detail, but this is the brief summary. Okay, now we are at the right speech, Sama Vacha. And also welcome Jocelyn to the session. Good to see you. Would you like to turn on your webcam, Jocelyn?
Morning is okay. I think I'll just participate like this for a start.
Okay.
Thank you.
And would you like to read this paragraph?
Okay, the whole paragraph.
Yes.
Okay, can. The Buddha divides right speech into four components: abstaining from false speech, abstaining from slanderous speech, abstaining from harsh speech, and abstaining from idle chatter. Because the effects of speech are not as immediately evident as those of bodily action, its importance and potential is easily overlooked. But a little reflection will show that speech and its offshoot, the written word, can have enormous consequences for good or for harm. In fact, whereas for beings such as animals who live at the pre-verbal level, physical action is of dominant concern, for humans immersed in verbal communication, speech gains the ascendancy. Speech can break lives, create enemies, and start wars, or they can give wisdom, heal divisions, and create peace. This has always been so. Yet, in the modern age, the positive and negative potentials of speech have been vastly multiplied by the tremendous increase in the means, speed, and range of communications. The capacity for verbal expressions, oral and written, has often been regarded as the distinguishing mark of the human species. From this, we can appreciate the need to make this capacity the means to human excellence rather than, as too often has been the case, the sign of human degradation. Okay,
Thanks, Jocelyn.
thank you.
Yeah, so I think this paragraph is beautifully written and expressed so well and clearly about the importance of speech and what it can do to humans in general. Firstly, it explains that animals who live at the pre-verbal. So let's define pre-verbal. Yeah. Existing or occurring before the development of speech. So animals, if you talk to them, I think they would hardly understand what you are saying. Yeah. Maybe at the most, you can hear parrots repeating your words. But we are not even sure whether they understand whatever we are saying. Yeah. So for humans immersed in verbal communication, speech gains the ascendancy. So what is ascendancy? Let's
Ascendancy.
Ascendancy. Occupation of a position of dominant power or influence. So speech has a lot of influence for us. This one is really powerful. It can break lives, create enemies, and start wars. Or it can give wisdom, heal divisions, and create peace. This has always been so, even in the Buddha's time, when they only have the oral tradition. And in the modern age, the positive and negative potential of speech have been vastly multiplied by the tremendous increase in the means, speed, and range of communications. You can see this marked by the internet era, where you can just search any information within seconds or within a few clicks. And that's why there's a lot of media. It's really important that the media reports not a fake news, and some people use fake news to control people as well. If you recall the recent cases, can you recall the ivermectin? The people thought ivermectin can cure, can alleviate COVID-19, and then some grandma, some auntie actually took ivermectin, and then she took it too much, and then she was hospitalized because of it. Do you guys see that in the news? Yeah, I think I can nod your head. Hester nod your head. Yes. Okay, for those of you who haven't read that news, maybe I can show you this way. Yeah, it's this one in Straits Times. Grandmother hospitalized after taking ivermectin. And it was because she heard from her group of friends that ivermectin is good for her, and then it can cure COVID, all those stuff. Yeah. So I'm not sure if there are photos of her. Okay, this is not that comprehensive. Yeah. This slide. A friend allegedly consolidated orders for 1,000 ivermectin pills from members of a church group to be purchased through a lobang. So this is one way when you hear speech from the wrong people, or when people spread false information, this can harm people. And then for this part, I would also like to share something that really inspires me. This quote: I do not dismiss the potential of the right speech delivered by the right speaker in the right way at the right moment. It can ignite a fire, change men's minds, open their eyes, alter their thoughts, bring hope to their lives, and in all these ways, change the world. I know. I saw it happen. From Ted Sorensen, speechwriter and advisor to JFK counselor 2008. And I want to show also one video, very inspiring, from Barack Obama, very short one.
But understand this argument about words not mattering. The most important thing that we can do right now is to re-engage the American people in the process of governance, to get them excited and interested again in what works and what can work in our government, to make politics cool again and important again and relevant again. Don't tell me words don't matter. I have a dream, just words. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, just words. We have nothing to fear but fear itself, just words, just speeches. It's true that speeches don't solve all problems, but what is also true is if we cannot inspire the country to believe again, then it doesn't matter how many policies and plans we have. And that is why I'm running for President of the United States of America. And that's why we just won 8 elections straight, because the American people want to believe in change again. Don't tell me words don't matter.
How do you guys like the clip? So this was back then in 2008, where his hair is still black. And I think this is one of his most powerful speech. Yeah. And that is internationally. I think America has a lot of people who can influence the world just with their speech. Unfortunately, recently, Donald Trump influenced people in the other way, in the wrong way. So that is what we meant when it can create enemies, or it can inspire wisdom. But let's not talk about globally. How about locally? Can you guys think of anyone who have huge influence, huge impact just by using their words? Anyone in Singapore? Chaikon not ahead. So who are you thinking of?
Our former Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew.
Exactly. I think it's because of him that we are all can be here in this kind of condition in Singapore. Yeah. So I don't think anyone can deny the impact he has made with his very powerful speech. And you can search YouTube on all his great speeches. It was really inspiring, I think, for me. And how about someone still alive? How about our current Prime Minister? I think he's also really good. Of course, probably not at Mr. Lee Kuan Yew's level. But I recall in one of his meeting at around 4 or 5 p.m., we just there will be announcement of his speech, and then everyone tune in the office listening to him. We'll see what is his decision regarding the COVID rules. So, of course, his speech also have impact on us as well. So I think that is what I want to convey in this session, the importance of speech, and then showing you various quotes from the Ted Sorensen, the quote that I really love, and also the clips from Barack Obama. Don't tell me words don't matter, in his very, energetic, inspiring style. Yeah. And maybe hopefully one day, or I or some of us can also inspire people in the same way. And if we go back to Buddhism, isn't there one person who really changed our life? The Buddha, with his wisdom alone, it has, at least gathered all of us here, and then all of us has benefited from it. So, sadhu to all of us. Okay, just nice 8 a.m. Any questions or comments before we wrap up? Okay, let's see in the chat. Classic Obama, we can say. Any comments?
Yes. I've got one. Yeah, go ahead, please, sister.
Yes, just now I think I understand your motivation, when you show us a few famous quotes and even a little short video from Barack Obama. And also you mentioned Singapore's previous Prime Minister and the current one. I think a part of what we are learning today is about right speech, and it's also about the influence of speech, right? So I think for us, we also must be very careful whenever we post anything or even our personal ideas about things. So yeah, I mean, among us, it's okay for us to say anything among us, yes. But for you to quote even, someone, or you show Barack Obama's video, I'm afraid that for certain people, they wouldn't think it is appropriate because it is totally personal perspective, right? Even for us, we are in no position to say whether he is correct or Donald Trump is wrong. We have no position to say so. Yeah, I mean, it is just personal perspective, right? Of course, Barack Obama, he had a lot of followers, and the same as Donald Trump. You cannot say that Donald Trump is totally wrong and no one is listening to him. So, and it is about politics. So I don't want to have any comments on this. So personally, I think we just have to be very careful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I understand what your point. Yes. So thanks for sharing. Again, how about Waken?
Oh, that's an interesting thought, sister. I was thinking, yeah. I guess politics might sometimes be a bit sensitive or a bit controversial, right? People might have their favorites, people might have their favorite candidates and so on. I think Marcel's intention wasn't about the politics or even the person, I suppose, right? It wasn't about promoting a particular politician and so on. I think it's more about the content of the speech or the ideas within that speech. So I think that's more the main point. Yeah, not so much like, yeah, whether you like the policies, okay, or whether you like the person. I think that's not the focus. Yeah. I for one really appreciate the content and the ideas of Obama's speech. Whether or not I like Obama's policies or Obama's politics, well, that's a separate matter. But the content of his speech I really resonate with because words because at least personally there have been people in our lives, right, that we see the power of their words, right, and especially of course the words of the Dhamma. The words of the Buddha himself carry great power. So yeah, I think the main point conveyed by Obama, I really appreciate that point. I was going to say earlier, just very quickly, is that words often become a bridge between like our thoughts and our action, our bodily action. And so the things we both the inner speech and the outer speech, right? The things we say to ourselves and also the things we say to other people, right? So if we could be more mindful of our speech, then it's much more effective, right? In preventing moral transgression to the bodily action level, right? If we could watch more carefully and watch more mindfully our speech, especially the words we say to ourselves, our inner speech, so to speak, then that becomes more effective. So yeah, I mean, Bhikkhu Bodhi says it very well. Sometimes it's easily overlooked, right? Because the effects of speech might not be as obvious as sometimes like the physical bodily action. But if we could watch it more closely, then I would imagine it could be much more effective. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for sharing your thoughts, Waken. Anyone else before we wrap up for today? Okay, if not, then let's do a dedication. Dedication of merits. 愿消三障诸烦恼，愿得智慧真明了。普愿罪障悉消除，实是畅行菩萨道。阿弥陀佛。Till we meet again, may we be guided by the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And have a influential speech Monday ahead.
Thank you, Marcel.
Thank you, Marcel. Thank you, Brother Cole, for the sharing.
Bye.
Sadhu.
Thank you,
guys
Marcel.
again.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
See you guys again. Bye-bye.